Hello and welcome back. I hope that everyone was able to have a little bit of a break, or at least that you will sometime in the year, and that you can get away from all screens in your life. I'd say it's a very much needed thing. And now that I'm back for my first tutorial, I want to show you guys how to reset a worksheet template with a simple button click. So let's say you have a worksheet and you like to input a lot of different values in it to see how it's going to change, well, whatever you need to see how it's going to change. And here I've got a little baby template to show you how this can work. We can hit clear and have all the values removed, or reset to have default values put back into it. And the methods I'm going to show you here will work for small things like this, or hundreds, or even if you're a little bit out there, thousands of values all at once. I don't know how you're going to manage a form with thousands of values, but what I'm going to show you here will work for that, and it will work for regular values like this, as well as formulas. So I'm going to show you how to input the formulas as well, and a little bit of formatting as well. And we're going to be using VBA for this, but what I'm going to show you will work regardless of your skill level. So you aren't going to have to worry about anything. And at the end of this tutorial, I am going to give you an update on the VBA course, where I am, why it's taken me so long, and when I kind of maybe expect it to be released. So I want to thank everyone who's been waiting for that patiently, and if you were unable to wait, I completely understand. So let me clear everything now and show you how to make this. All right, here we are with a nice empty worksheet and just a few values over here, and I'm going to show you how to add all the nice slick formatting at the end as well. But what you want to do first is to identify how your template's going to be laid out and where your inputs are. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control and click these guys and give it a background color. It doesn't matter what you give it right now, we just want to be able to easily identify it. And now let's put in some default values, because I do want to be able to reset this at some point. So let's say quantity of 10, 10, and a discount of 10%. And let's go ahead and input the formula that we want as well, a very simple formula. It can be as complex as you want it to be, just make sure that you get it right before you go to program. So get everything here right first, then we're going to add the code. Now the first thing that we want to do is to clear this, so D3, D5, and a D7. Let's go to the VBA window and do that, Alt F11. Then you're going to want to go to Insert, Module. Don't worry if yours doesn't say Option Explicit at the top. That is not required for this tutorial, but it's not going to hurt if it's in there. And you want to type sub, and let's go for a name. This is what's going to be visible in the worksheet when you hit Alt F8 to run the macro. So give it a descriptive name, and clear data works for this. And what you want to do now is to type worksheets, and then the name of the worksheet. And let's go ahead and rename my worksheet from sheet 1 to input. Okay. So worksheets input, then we do a period and type range, and then give it a range reference like we're used to doing in the worksheet. So our first cell or range that we want to clear is D3. So we type D3 in there, and then a period, and we are now working with cell D3 on the input worksheet. And what do we want to do? We want to access what's called the value property and set it equal to whatever we want. Now if we set it equal to nothing, so quotation marks with nothing between it, it's going to clear the cell. And we go back here and let's hit Alt F8. We can see clear data right there, and run the macro. D3 is no more. Double click, it's completely empty. Now there are many different ways to actually empty a cell, but using the value property is going to make our life much easier when we want to also then go and put a default value into it. So for this tutorial, I want to make your life simple, not complex. But if you want some more interesting ways to clear things, you can turn on the macro recorder. So go to View and Record Macro, and then go to the Home tab and go to the eraser guy right here, and we have Clear All, Formats, Contents, Comments and Notes, and Hyperlinks. And if you click one of these with the macro recorder on, you're going to get the code that will tell you how to do that. Now I'll show you how to do that with something else later in this tutorial, but we're not going to talk about clearing cells anymore. You know how to do it, so let's go ahead and do it for the next two ranges. We want to do it for D5 and D7. So let's go back here, put another value in this guy, Alt F8, run the macro. All three have been completely cleared. So if all you want to do is clear it, you're good to go. But now let's go ahead and reset it with some default values. And I'm going to copy and paste this to make it go a little bit faster. Reset data. Do not be afraid to copy and paste when you are programming. Just make sure you go over every line of the copied code to make sure you input it correctly, or to make sure you make all the changes you need to make. In this case, we just change the values from nothing to something. So 10, 15, and 0.1 for 10%. Now we can go back to the worksheet, hit Alt F8 again, click Reset Data or Run, and there we go. Default values in all of the cells, 0.1, 15, and 10. Nothing else in there, just what we put in between the quotation marks. So it is that easy to clear a cell, put a default value in it. And then all you have to do is to add a button and attach the macro to the button, and you've got a really nice little trick that you can do to make your life easier and to increase productivity by quite a lot, so that you're not just going through a worksheet and deleting all the values every time you want to reset what you're working on. But now let's go ahead and do it with some formatting and this formula right here. And we're going to make our life easy for this one. We're going to use the macro recorder. And that's going to record the actions that we take here in the worksheet. Now sometimes it works horribly, sometimes it works really well. So I'm going to show you some examples where it's actually going to work pretty darn well. And let's go ahead and make this go smaller and take this guy over here. There we go, something like that. And shrink this a little bit. All right. And now let us copy that. So select it, copy it, hit escape, and let's go ahead and clear it now. And then we can go to View Macros, Record Macro, hit OK. We have a new module now, Module 2. Double click that guy. And anything that we do over here is now going to be written in code over here. So we will double click this cell and then Control V to paste it in and then enter. Now we see that it selected cell D9. It did something with formula R1C1, which looks a little bit crazy. I'll explain that in a moment. And then it selected cell D10. Now I am going to caution you against, before I explain exactly what happened over here, selecting this cell. So I'm cautioning you against this and hitting Control V. If you do that, all you get is ActiveSheet.paste. And that's not helpful at all. That doesn't put a formula into anything. All it does is paste whatever you've copied. So that's why you have to double click the cell, then paste it in. That part doesn't get recorded by the macro, and then hit enter. And then it will put it in as a formula. Now we can stop the macro recorder. So go up here and stop recording. You can also start and stop it with the bottom left of the window right here. And let's make this guy a little bit bigger and talk about what we have now. So this right here is the formula. It looks crazy because it's in R1C1 format. You don't need to know how that works in order to get this to run because we have all the code here. So I'm going to show you how to put it in your macro and get it to work, and then we will talk about it. So when the macro recorder is running over here, it's going to have a range reference and then a period, and then it does something with that range reference. So here we have our range reference, then .select. And there are a couple other types of range references that you're going to see here. Selection is one, and active cell is another one. So that means it was dealing with the currently active cell. But the important thing to get from this is the range reference. Everything after it is what you want to do with that range. So we are going to copy this, go back to Module 1, and let's give it a little bit more space, paste that in, but now let's get the correct range reference. So I'm going to select this guy and go Worksheets Input Range D7 needs to be range D9 because that is where this is, D9. Now we have the correct range and we just need to grab all of this, copy it, go here, and paste it. And we are good to go. Let us test it and make sure that it works, and then I will explain R1C1. So let's go ahead and just clear all of this. And hit Alt F8, select the macro reset data or run, 10, 15, 10%, and look at that. Perfect. Now let's go talk about the crazy thing that this is in the code. The cell references here are R1C1 references. That stands for row and column. So let me just read through this and explain how it is. Everything here within brackets is relative to the cell that we are dealing with. We are currently dealing with cell D9. So R bracket minus 6 means to go up 6 rows from row 9. So we go up 6 rows and we get to D3. A C or an R with nothing after it says remain in the same column. If it was an R, it would say remain in the same row. So we have a row reference and a column reference. So go up 6 rows, stay in the same column. Then we multiply that by a reference that is up 4 rows and in the same column. Then we multiply that by 1 minus a reference that is 2 rows up from the current cell and in the same column. Now R1C1 references are a little bit more than I explain right here. There's a little bit more to it, but it's confusing enough that it should be in its own tutorial and not just right here. And that's why I show you how to make this using the macro recorder, because it makes your life so much easier. Now I'm going to show you how to use the macro recorder to get the code to clear formatting and to apply certain types of formatting to the cells. We're not going to cover all formatting because that actually quickly gets a little bit confusing, but some of the formatting, particularly the number formatting, works really well with the macro recorder. So let's go back to Module 2. Turn the macro recorder on, macro 2. There we go, macro 2. And go to the Home tab. Let's go to the eraser guy that I mentioned earlier, clear. And how about we want to clear formats? Click that guy. And there we go, selection. I told you about that a moment ago. Another way to reference a range, selection.clear formats. So now we know how to clear a format from a cell, .clear formats. All right, now let's go ahead and add some formatting. So let's go to D3 and let's go for, it's a little bit small at the moment, number, and this guy for price, we want him to be currency. So click that, and we get selection.number format and that crazy thing. Now depending how you do this, you may get number format or something that says .style, but that's not really important what you get exactly right now as long as it works. So selection.number format, great, we got that for the dollars. Now let's go to quantity. All we want for this guy is for it to be a general format. So let's go here, click general, and let's go here and click %, and give it a couple decimal places. And for total, let's go ahead and make it also like that. And we are done with the formatting for this guy, so I'm going to stop the macro and let's take a look at the code. It's going to be a little bit interesting here. All right. So for D3, selection.number format, we get this one. But then when we went all the way to the bottom of the form, we got .style equals currency. So which one do I want to use? What's going on? I would say go ahead and use the number format version because that's the one you're most often going to use when you have complex or really anything that's not just basic versions of formatting for a cell. So if you get this from the macro recorder, go ahead and use this. So let's go to module 1. We have everything that we need now. And let's go ahead and get our references. So we have all of our correct references here. And we're going to paste them in. And now let's go back here. And what I'm going to do is just copy everything from this. Bring it over here. And just put it down here. So for D3, we want this guy. Range D3. There we go. And let's also use the same one for the formula formatting. There we go. And number format of general for the quantity. There we go. And a percent. Do we want dot style percent, or do we want it with 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places? We want it with 2, so let's grab that. If you watched the macro recorder when I changed these options, you would see each one of these lines appear. And that's how you know that you want this one, because it's the last line for D7. After that, we selected cell D9. And when we got to the end of working with cell D7, I had it exactly how I wanted it. And the next action was to go to cell D9. That's how I know I'm dealing with the correct line. So number format. There we go. And what about clear formats? Well, any range that you'd like to clear, just put clear formats at the end of it. And that's going to clear only the formatting from that cell. In the downloadable file, I'm going to have a section where I have clear formats. So it will be like this, and then clear formats at the end. But I leave that commented out because it's also going to clear the background colors. And using the macro recorder to apply things like background colors and underlines, that gets messy really, really quickly. And if you're just starting out, you might not want to deal with that exactly. But at least you know how to clear the formats if you want to. And if you're only working with basic formats like number formatting, that could be something that's pretty helpful. At this point though, let's go ahead and remove this and test everything out for reset. Alright, so Alt F11 and make it a little bigger. And let's go ahead and clear all. Alt F8, reset data, or run. There we go. Formatting, values, and formulas. Now how about I very quickly show you how to add that nice formatting that we had at the beginning of the tutorial. So we're going to grab these guys, we're going to make them a little smaller. We're going to grab these guys, Control to select multiple rows and columns at once, make them a little smaller. Then how about actually we make this a little smaller and this a little smaller. Actually, that's not required in this case, but that's okay. We're now going to go to Insert, Illustrations, Shapes, and Rounded Rectangle. The rounded rectangle is your friend. So let's make it a little bigger like that. Okay. And let's make the edges like that. Make it black. Shape fill, no fill. Perfect. And let's go down here. Give this guy a light gray. Now let's go to Insert. And I am doing this quickly because this isn't the point of the tutorial necessarily. Here we're doing a rounded rectangle again. And once we have it how we like it, Control C, Control V, then go to Shape Format, Align, Snap to Shape. That's going to help us line this guy up. There we go. And probably, now I'm going to hit Control Click and arrow key. Oops. Let's take Align off now. Formatting can be very annoying, especially when you click Snap to Shape and it also clicks Snap to Grid. All right. So there we have that guy, and let's right click, or there we go. Right click this, edit text, clear, right click this, edit text, reset, and go to the home tab and center everything. Same thing here, center everything. Right click, assign macro, currently off the screen, and clear data. Okay. Right click, assign a macro, and reset data. OK, and go to a View, or one thing actually, Home tab. Click this guy, and this guy. There we go. Bottom border. Now go to View and take everything off. Clear, reset. There you go. That's all for this tutorial. Make sure to download the file and keep it for yourself. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe and hit the bell icon. Now I want to give a little mention, a little word on the VBA course. So I want to thank everyone who has been patiently waiting for this course. I have gotten quite a few emails from people and quite a few comments about the course. And I do want to apologize that it has taken me so long to do this. I'm not going to give excuses or to complain. I'm going to tell you that some things happened, and a lot of things happened to a lot of people in the last year. So I'm not going to say that my situation was worse than anyone else's. All I'm going to say is that as a result of things that happened, I had to stop working on the course a few times. However, things are now moving in the right direction, separate from this course, which means that I now have more time to work on this course. And I am currently about 90% of the way finished with the course, and I'm actually very excited for how things are going. And the final project I think it's going to, I want to say it's going to wow you. Everyone who wants to not only learn how to write code, but also how to structure their thinking and their planning and building these projects so that someone can give them a project. You can be given a project and not only know how to make individual pieces of code for it, but know how to plan it, how to structure the planning process and the code building process, and then how to take something which is a massive project and break it up into pieces. But then how do you know how many pieces to break it up into? How big do you make your code before you make separate pieces for that? These are all programming topics that I cover throughout the course in addition to the actual programming itself. So I think that you're going to find this a comprehensive and complete course that will successfully take you from knowing nothing about VBA, macros, or programming to being, I don't really want to say an expert, but you're going to be darn good at programming afterwards. And you're going to be able to take a task, have someone, let's say a manager, describe that task to you, and then know how to take it from regular layman's terms, regular words, non-programming speak, take it from that and make it into a fully working project. So that's my goal for the course. I'm about 90% of the way done. I am sorry it's taken me so long to get to this point, but hopefully, do I want to say that next month will be a release date? I don't want to say it, but that's what I'm thinking. So hopefully it will be. Thank you for your patience and stay safe.